Good morning, Sean. I'm a day late and about $1 million short, but here I am bringing the video to you and to the people. Happy Thursday. So Sean, I love your last video. Totally makes sense to me. It's that common idea that it takes 10,000 hours to master any kind of skill. So at that rate, by the time we're 50, we'll put together some awesome videos. So Sean, this weekend brings us to Valentine's Day. Adrian always accuses me of saying Valentine's Day. Valentine. Certainly I would deride this holiday as nothing more than the creation of Hallmark and Russell Stover and excuse to hoard sentiment and spend money. Good for nothing but fine dining, chocolate binging, and the occasional massacre committing. But I realize without such holidays, our economy would probably tank, and some men would never say I love you to their wives. Love you, Adrian. And as I'm sure you all know, I, John B. Shank, am quite the romantic. So in F. Scott Fitzgerald's seminal work, The Great Gatsby, Nick Carraway, the narrator, describes Jay Gatsby as having a, quote, romantic readiness, such as I have never found in any other person, and which it is not likely I shall ever find again. Well, Mr. Carraway, allow me to introduce myself. Soda. And as you know, my history is filled with a plethora of wonderfully stupid things that I've done in the name of love, lust, whatever over the years. Such as writing a very sappy love poem and leaving it on the answering machine of a girl I had just met the day before, or writing a very sappy love letter from the perspective of flowers and leaving that on a girl's porch and never hearing from her again, or the worst thing I've ever done, dating a best friend's sister. Again, Joe, so sorry. The story I'd like to share today is something I call the Seat of Fate. The Seat of Fate. Let me start with some context. I was in a fairly dark place. It was my first year of teaching, which was kicking my ass. I was living alone for the first time in a wreck of an apartment in a shady neighborhood where my neighbor was shot and stabbed. Though I made some great friends in Annapolis, I felt very, very much alone, especially in the romantic sense. And then we decided to go to Vegas for New Year's, where I spent most of my time getting shot down by every woman I saw. So let's just say the pump was prime. I swear to God that's not a sexual reference. Right, so the concept of the Seat of Fate is the romantic potential that an empty seat next to you in a public place, say a theater or a concert or on a plane, has to be filled with a possible romantic partner, or at least a very attractive person. Or if you're Joe, the Seat of Fate simply remains empty, so you don't have to share the armrest. And on my return trip from Vegas, I thought I might have finally found the Seat of Fate when a lovely young woman plopped down next to me and we commenced talking for the entire flight. Sadly, I really don't remember what we talked about. I'm sure we exchanged pleasantries, swapped biographies, shared itineraries. I did know that when we landed in Cleveland, though I would be flying on to Baltimore, she would be staying there and then eventually heading back to the Southwest from whence she came. So I didn't really have a lot of high prospects of ever seeing her again after this flight. I also remember that we both got really quiet when the pilot announced that we were descending, and she asked me then what I was thinking. In a moment of stark honesty, I said, I was thinking about what it would be like to kiss you as the tires touched down on the tarmac, and she proceeded to lean over our shared armrest, and we commenced making out for the remainder of the trip, all through the landing and the taxiing up to our gate. Only imagine how awkward that was for the poor schmuck in the aisle seat. So we disembarked the plane holding hands like we were high school studies. We swapped information there on the concourse and went our separate ways. And I totally had the thought of if I even needed a plane to get me to Baltimore, if I could fly there on the cloud of my own ridiculous and stupid happiness. And then a lot happened in a very short amount of time. A week later, I was back in Ohio to see her, and we had a great weekend, though my return trip did involve a snowstorm, a diversion to Buffalo, and a night in the airport. After that, we spent hours every day talking on the phone, and a couple weeks later, in one of those conversations, I found myself proposing to her. Yikes. Did I say romantic readiness? I meant romantic ridiculousness. Does it count if there wasn't a ring? Anyway, a few weeks later, she came out to visit me, and that trip did not go so well. It started with her having to wait several hours at the airport for me to pick her up because I was stuck in the hospital because of dehydration stemming from the flu. This trip also included 3 or 4 hours of painfully silent car rides when I took her up to meet my parents, because we realized that in the intervening weeks we had used up all our conversational material and there was nothing left to talk about because we had nothing in common. All this on top of the fact that I learned that she lied to me about a few things like her age and the fact that her roommate was really her ex-boyfriend, led me to the startling, shocking realization that maybe this wasn't such a good idea, and that trip ended with the demise of our relationship. It was a disaster, unmitigated. But I wouldn't do it any differently because the same romantic readiness that led me into that nightmare, that allowed me to kiss a girl I just met on a plane, is the same romantic readiness that allowed me to be open to the relationship I'm in now. So my Seat of Fate turned out not to be a seat at all, but a moment in a hallway at Cedar Crest High School when Adrian was walking by at the exact time I needed a last-minute chaperone for prom. And it turns out it was the same romantic readiness that allowed her to say yes to go out and buy a new dress for that night in hopes of catching the eye of the cute English teacher. I was the cute English teacher. That's me. Anyway, that's my story. Sorry it's late. I had extenuating circumstances. Sean, everyone, happy Valentine's Day. Until next week, peace out.